And I went around to the students. So come back to I just want to brush that for a minute. And I was talking about Malcolm. I told them this story that I just told you. And I told them about who he was and what he did and what he represented to us as a people, our shining black prince. I told about different things that happened and that they would enjoy the movie. And the whole time I'm doing this, it was a big room. It must have been a science room because there were sinks along that room. And I had to go that way to get out the room. The door was at the end going that way. And they had brought in maybe 3 classes. So there were 60 students in the room and they were all sitting around. And there was a brother that was sitting up against the sink and he was mad doing something. He was just doing something. And I didn't say anything to him. I didn't tell him to stop and anything like that. But I'm on my way out now, and I'm leaving. And when I get to the brother, the brother says to me, "Wow, that was a great presentation, man. Here, thank you so much for coming." And it was in block letters the name Malcolm X. I believe if I had snatched that piece of paper from that brother and told him stop drawing, I'm talking about Malcolm X, he would have stopped listening to me. I believe it was in the process of him doing that block letter, doing that artwork that was opening him up to hear what I was saying. How many of y'all are like when you get a phone call, you have to tell people, hold on, I need to get a pad of paper so I can doodle? That you need to be doodling in order to listen to someone. My mother used to say to me, like I used to come in to the room and I'd start talking to her and she said, Skip, that's my nickname, Skip, let me put my glasses on so I can hear what you're saying. And I was trying to figure out why you need glasses to hear me. Many times you see better, you hear better when you see better. It's called synthesis. It is combining of your senses that allows you to come forward with an idea. Like for instance, some of y'all into music, some of y'all into rap. You might smell words. You might, like when you listen to the piano, you might see colors. So that sometimes you can blend senses of sight and sound, taste and hearing. And that's how you experience things. So that a spatial learner is a visual learner. Art teachers need to be taught art, the math of art, the science of art. We need to bring staff together to let them interact with each other, to let the art teacher know that when they're learning art, this is how you can support them in math. If you draw a picture and the right side looks like the left side, that's called symmetry, and that is a principle and a concept in mathematics. The nose is the equal sign, if the right equals the left. Now, when you get into Pablo Picasso stuff, that's a whole other type of mathematical dynamic there, because it doesn't always work out that way. Kinesthetic. Movement. This is the one that gets himself caught up sometimes. Or herself. This is the one that's always moving around. Always moving. I had a student in my class. Young, this was a 5th grade class. And now, mind you, I'm in Bronx, New York. He used to be like this. And he would be doing this the whole class, like this, the whole time. And I let the young brother do it. And I said to him, look, let me tell you something. Principal comes to the door every day. But you can go ahead and do this all you want. And he used to have his notebook up. And he was taking his notes. This is how he functioned in my class. I never stopped him. Because he was a kinesthetic person. He was moving constantly. That's all he ever did was move. I just watched him move. And you know, melanin can make you do things. Melanin is motion. In fact, melanin is the motion of the universe. And so within my framework of knowledge and thinking and looking and compassion for that brother, I just let him do his thing. I didn't care. And I wonder, why should I care? What is the significance of a kinesthetic learner having to sit down in his seat and not move. That must be torture. And what is he going to learn from me as he's experiencing this torture? Now, please understand also that I'm not taking this to the extreme. I want you to understand that there is certain parameters that you need to use. So I'm not saying that everybody can be going buck wild up in my class. There has to be some formation of understanding. But basically, nobody else had a problem as it relates to just sitting down. Some of them would move. Some of them would stand up in my class and stretch. Some people say, what are you doing? Well, I know what you're doing. You're stretching. Why do I have to ask you that? The hippocampus, safe. This young brother was safe in that class. He was safe. With no questions as to, is something wrong with you? Or what are you doing? Safe. Kwame takes a test on rate times time equals distance. Train leaves San Diego, going to Bakersfield. It's scheduled to arrive in 2 hours and 15 minutes. However, somewhere on the trip, it's stalled on the track. However, the train still has to get to Bakersfield in time. How much quicker will that train have to move in order to make its destination on time? That is rate times time equals distance. Kwame takes the test on rate times time equals distance. And out of 10 questions, Kwame gets 8 wrong. Teacher said you failed. You don't understand rate times time equals distance. You failed. Kwame, in his sadness, goes home and he has like a small basketball court in the back side of his house. Starts to shoot. Pretty soon the netball just goes right into the net. Every time Kwame throws that ball, he is performing the formula. Rate times time. The rate that the ball is traveling times the time it's in the air is going to determine its distance. So is it that Kwame doesn't understand rate times time equals distance, or is it that we just did not receive it the way we told him we wanted him to know rate times time equals distance? He knows rate times time equals distance. What would happen if we took the math teacher and the gym teacher and brought them together? And had the gym teacher reinforced the rate times time equals distance formula in gym class playing basketball, while the math teacher that same day was explaining rate times time equals distance as it relates to the travel of that train. What would happen? The child is being immersed in a concept, not in a subject. Goes back to something that you and I were speaking about at lunch. It's not about disciplines. There is one word, universe. And the place where you learn that one word and get good at that one word is called a universe city. Today they call them universities. Oh, that's an aha moment. There we go. See, that's what we call an aha moment. Because it was right in front of you the whole time. I didn't give you anything new. I just put it in a way that I just used my voice. Universe city, university. It was a place that you went to learn the secrets of the cosmos. Interpersonal, which is social. Now here's the other one getting in trouble. Always talking. Always talking. Isn't that right, brother?
Yes, sir.
Always talking. Okay? Always talking. Silence is golden. No, silence can be deadly sometimes.
Yeah, I'm going crazy if it's quiet.
Oh, my goodness, man.
I don't even like quiet.
Gee, my goodness. Troublesome, brother. Troublesome. That conversation is real, man. Well, look what you're into. You're into rap. You're into the mastery of the word, of the speech, of the talking. And there is nothing wrong with that. When I was early in my career, I was a kindergarten teacher. And teachers are observed. You have a pre-op, an observation, and you have a post-observation. where you meet with the principal or the assistant principal or whoever's going to observe you in your class. They're going to tell you about how good or how much of a teaching you'll have to get better at. I used to always tell the kindergarten, my principal, I say, look, please understand something. Please do not judge my class for the amount of talking you're going to do. I encourage my children to talk. I encourage them to express themselves. I said, what I would like to ask you to do is to focus on what the conversation is about. And the great majority of the time, the children that were with me were on task. What they were talking about was what we were learning, not random discussion. I just let them talk. Now again, I want to explain, I'm not talking about going buck wild crazy. Discipline and control on the conversation, directed conversation, but the permission to talk. I like social interaction. In fact, the only question I really wanted to know when I used to go to my children's open school night, the real thing that I really wanted to know, because I knew what was going on with their grades. I didn't need that understanding. What I wanted to know is how are they getting along with the other people? I used to tell my children, I don't send you to school to learn. I was their teacher. I was teaching them from when they were little, from when they can remember. They remember, I used to go to Barnes & Noble and get like a book on math, a book on science.
Yep.
You know, they used to have to do 2 pages. Okay? Because if you want that little bit of cash at the end of the week, what we call an allowance.
What you allow.
I needed to see 10 pages in science, 10 pages language arts. When we filled up that book, we got in what other subjects. I had assignments for them. I had things I wanted them to do. So I was their teacher. What you do when you go to that school, you learn how to get along with other people. And that's all I wanted to know was the socialization of my child. How are they interacting with people? How are they interacting with you? Respect, ethics, morals. That's what I wanted. But other than that, hey, I'll teach you history. Because, first of all, I don't think they can teach you what you need to know. Because you're my child. And I know what you need to know. And to this day, if you should speak to my children, they tell you very interesting stories like that. But that's okay. They're great people. Logic, which would be reasoning, math, and science. Now, of course, you realize that science, as we use the word, doesn't really apply to oceanography and biology, chemistry, physics. Science means to know. This is why one of the attributes of the Creator is to be omniscient, which is all-knowing. Scient is where we get the word science from. And in Egypt, the patron, the one in charge of it, his name was Tehuti. And he was an ibis bird. Logic. I had a 3rd grade student. I could give him a series of numbers and tell him to multiply. The 3rd grader. He could get me the answer. I could then say, now divide them. He could give them to me like that. His mind worked in a way that was, as it relates to math. Now, by the way, this young man was in what they call, still can't figure it out though, they called it special ed. But he could do that with numbers. He was what's called an Indigo Child. Indigo Child is a child that's just an absolute supreme genius. Indigo Child. I've worked with about 4 or 5 Indigo children in my time. 2 of them were in special ed. One of them eventually went to prison. The one thing that I've noticed about Indigo children is they have a very serious problem with authority. That's why they're always in trouble. My last Indigo child, his name was Kennedy Jimenez. half Puerto Rican, half Dominicano. And Kennedy was an Indigo Child. He was a genius. And he was always being kicked out of class because he couldn't get along with me. But he and I got along very well. Because, see, what I did with Kennedy is that I used to see, because he's still a child, but he's a genius child. Still a child. I used to encourage ideas. And then he'd come back to me and he'd say, I have an idea. And it was something that I had said. I said, hey, man, that's a great idea. I never let him know. I never said, Kennedy, come on, man, I told you that last week. Power of suggestion. The Jedi Knight who says, you really don't want to arrest me. And the policeman says, I really don't want to arrest you.
Jedi mind trick.
The Jedi
mind trick.
Mind
trick. The Jedi mind trick.
Yeah. Power of suggestion. Say, you really want to study. You know something? I really want to study. Okay. That's how I work with Indigo children. The Jedi mind trick. Kennedy and I had a fantastic relationship. Never judgmental. Hey, Kennedy, what's up? I look at my window because there's a little glass opening in the window. I see it's Kennedy. He's looking in. And I beg him to come in. I'm teaching class, by the way. But he knocks on the door, come in. I say, Kennedy, what happened? I said, Kennedy, what happened? He's not getting that teacher. She's stupid. And I said, what happened? He said, that's right. I told her. You're stupid. She gave me out of class. He said, now, tell me, Brother Kaba, the truth. Tell me the truth. Isn't she stupid? I said, Kennedy, yes, she is. But you can't tell her that in class. You're a child, man. She's the adult. She's the teacher. She's going to kick you out. You can't tell her that. She's stupid. And I said, she is. And I said, in life, you're going to be a lot of stupid people. But if that's your employer and you need money to pay for your rent and your food, you can't call them stupid. Because he was such a genius, he was far more intelligent than her. And he had no qualms of telling her she was stupid. No problem. It came out of his mouth so justifiable that even she knew she was stupid. And that's why she kicked him out of class. Because she had cognitive dissonance. She didn't want to face her frailty. And every time she looked at him, he only reaffirmed, tell her that. Indigo children, geniuses. Last one. Linguistics. There's a gentleman, his name is Daniel Hammett. He wrote a book, Born on a Blue Monday. He's autistic, and he is an Indigo Child, and he can master any language in 13 days.
What happens is I feel really autistic, but Indigo at the same time.
Because, brother, some of the most brilliant people I've ever met have been autistic. Because autism is not a disability. They're other gifted. And our job is to search for that gift. I've been around I've worked in the waterbed, I've been around numbers of autistic children. They have where I live is a co-op. There's an apartment where they will rent out to homes. And there was a young lady who I used to pass every morning. And I would address the people. I'd say, good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? Hotep, what's going on? She just always looked straight ahead. Never said a word. Year after year after year. They were always, because they're waiting for the school bus or they're waiting for a bus to come. Never said a word. I came down one morning, like any other morning, and she was looking out the window, just like she always does. Everybody else was there. And I said, good morning to her. I said, good morning, everybody. How are you doing? Hotep. And she turned around, and she smiled at me. And she said, good morning. And then she turned back around and had the same look looking out the window. She never did that again. But that one day, something was going on that made her turn and smile and say good morning. Autistic children also are geniuses. But they're geniuses in areas that have yet been found. I know it. I see it. I feel it. I have worked with children they call dyslexia. Dyslexia. The idea that they see that as that people. They see that people. Dyslexia. They say that that's a disability. That's not a disability. Who says that people have to decode these symbols like this? Who says that's a mark of a genius? I'm sorry, I just don't accept that. Because I've known people who are dyslexic that draw, that speak, that do things in ways that nobody else who are avid readers can do. But because if you make money with books, they want to force you to think that a genius is in that area, and that's not what a genius is. And I just don't accept it, and I will not accept it. I don't believe in disability. I believe in other gifts. You're other gifted. You're other gifted. And we have to start to focus on these other gifts in order for us to be able to bring out the true genius in our children. Now, with everything that I've said to you, we haven't yet talked about Africa. We yet have not talked about culture. Because what I'm talking about is Africa, but an African methodology of teaching. That's what we have to bring into the class, along with learning about our culture. But it's the way you learn about your culture that is equally as important as what you learn. Because I could teach you European history from an African perspective, and you'd learn a great deal. I could teach you African history from a European perspective, and you wouldn't learn a thing. It's the method of the way in which our community thinks. Remember I said earlier about bilingual education? You must act in the language that you think. We think, this society thinks linearly. Linear, line,